5 years ago, I deleted Instagram because I was at the lowest point of my life in terms of friendships, happiness, and self-esteem. I had given up all my interests in the pursuit of getting the external validation I craved from my peers. This is the story of why I needed to delete Instagram to find peace and change my life. First, let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up, I was a happy kid. I liked painting, playing outside, playing with my dog, reading, watching my favorite shows, and playing video games. I didn't think too much about what I looked like. Of course, I wanted to look presentable at school and fit in like any normal 12-year-old, but I wasn't obsessive. I had heard about Instagram from some friends when I was 12, but from what they showed me, it didn't seem interesting. Then when I was 14, I kind of started to understand the value of Instagram. I saw it as a way for my friends to stay connected and keep up with each other during the summer. When I turned 15, I caved into getting Instagram because I was starting to miss out on what my friends were doing during the summer. Right off the bat, I started getting anxious about what to post about and how many likes I would get. At the beginning, I was just posting about my interests, which were pictures of nature like flowers, sunsets, and my drawings, my paintings, or pictures of me and my pets. But I wouldn't get as many likes compared to my friends. This immediately affected me and made me feel self-conscious about who I was and the things I liked. I had never anticipated this because I thought if I didn't follow any models and just followed my friends, I would be safe from Instagram changing my self-image. I was so sure that I knew who I was and I didn't care what people thought about me that when this started happening, I was like, wait, what? I would see pictures of my friends getting 100 or 200 likes, and subconsciously I was like, whoa, am I not as cool as them? And I couldn't help but feel sad that people didn't like my pictures. The thing I feared most about getting the app and that I thought I would be able to not care about started affecting me almost immediately. I started deleting the pictures of things that I liked that weren't getting a lot of attention, and I started to think of what can I post to make my Instagram better and more aesthetic. Essentially, my mind started getting corrupted into liking what everyone else liked. In my head, I had already understood that more followers equals more friends, and more likes means you're more popular. At 16, my obsession with Instagram was already at its peak after just 1 year of use. I was constantly on the app. The biggest problem, I think, was having a personal Instagram where I had all my friends, because then the app was directly tied to my self-image and how popular I was based on how many likes I had. Even if I wanted to use my phone to search something on Google, I would forget the initial intention I had and I would robotically open the app to see if I had missed anything. At that point, I started realizing, okay, I have an actual problem. I started even getting yelled at by my parents because I was too much on my phone and that I was wasting too much time on it. But even if I knew it was true, I felt it would be impossible to delete it and miss out on everything my friends were seeing. The obsession wasn't just because of a fear of missing out. It was almost like a competition between all the people I knew to see who can come up with the funniest captions to go with the best pictures to showcase this perfect life. I started to have trouble living in the present and enjoying the moment, because as soon as I left the house or did anything out of the ordinary, in my head I was like, okay, can I turn this into an Instagram moment? If I was on a hike or at the beach, I wasn't even thinking about enjoying the moment. I was just thinking about how and when am I going to take a picture of myself doing the activity so I can show my friends. I was obsessively seeking opportunities to do things to post, and a lot of the time I was disappointed because I would do something out of the ordinary and I wouldn't get a good picture or not as good as I imagined it, and then I would end up disappointed because I couldn't post about it. What's sad is that I didn't want to take pictures for the memories, but just to show people the exciting things I had done. Instagram even affected the way I dressed, and I constantly felt the need to have new clothes that I could post with. And I started realizing that this is exactly what Instagram wants you to do. They want you to spend as much time as possible on the platform and become addicted, because that's how they make money. The more people they can influence with the app and promote over-consumerism, the better. The next thing is, if you're on the app, At some point, you'll unintentionally fall on a lot of pictures of Instagram models, which all have the same look with a small upturned nose, big lips, and nice jawline. For someone who was still very influenceable at 16, it became almost ingrained in my head that if I don't look that way, then I'm not beautiful. And the problem with this is that in real life, you're not exposed to hundreds of out-of-the-ordinary gorgeous girls every day. Like, you'll maybe see one that you're gonna be like, wow. And then you'll get on with your life and your tasks and you'll forget about it. But when you're on Instagram, you're bombarded with all these beautiful people every day, and you start thinking, wow, is everyone like this except me? For me, this even started to create facial dysmorphia and body dysmorphia. When I looked in the mirror, I hyper-focused on those things I didn't have and compared myself to what I had absorbed all day. I started becoming obsessed with working out to reach a certain aesthetic. I went to the gym 5 times a week, which isn't necessarily bad, but I was going for 2 hours a day after school, sometimes even as late as 9 p.m., and I would get home exhausted. I realized that some of the goals I had would be unachievable, and I even started getting intrusive thoughts about plastic surgery. I started counting protein, and it was impossible to hit the amount of protein I needed, so I started taking protein supplements, which I don't think are good for you now. Now that I know more about ultra-processed foods, I'm convinced those protein powders are just a scam that the fitness industry is trying to make money from. One of the supplements I was taking is protein whey isolate, and at 16 or 17, I had no idea what it was. I just bought it because I was like, if this is what it takes for me to reach my goals, then I'm gonna take it. By constantly seeing what other people were doing, it was almost impossible to not compare my life to what I was seeing on the app. It taught me as a young, influenceable person to care about superficial things and focus on what I didn't have. The biggest problem was that I was comparing my everyday life with all the mundane tasks that I had to do that I'm now grateful for, with the 1% over-edited, over-posed lives of the people I was following. I started to feel ungrateful and unhappy for everything I had, and I wanted to change the way I was thinking. While all this was happening in my head, one of my closest friendships was starting to become really toxic. She was my best friend for 3 years, and we had so many good memories together. We were always laughing together, and we helped each other succeed. And I even ended up becoming roommates with her, which is a story for another time. But she became really passive-aggressive, and I saw her be mean to so many other people too. The second someone would leave at a restaurant, she would start talking about them. So I had a feeling she was doing that with me too, and I ended up being right. She would even talk badly to her mom, who was trying to help her, and it got to the point where I couldn't stand her anymore. That's basically where things took a turn with Instagram as well, because every time she posted something, I saw right through her. I couldn't believe I was the only one who saw how terrible of a person she had become, and everyone else was still her friend, commenting on pictures, giving her the attention and validation she needed, essentially encouraging her to keep being confident in the horrible personality she had developed. It made me realize that there are people who are really good at hiding their toxic personalities online, and that you can't have an opinion of someone without knowing them in person. It was the drop that made the vase overflow. I couldn't unfollow this person because if you unfollow someone in your entourage, people will eventually figure it out and ask why, and it makes a bunch of drama. But I couldn't stand seeing her get so much praise online. So to see this person as little as possible and to cut myself off from everyone else who had become toxic, I decided to delete Instagram. I didn't want this app to influence me and control my thoughts anymore. I wanted to break free from the comparison mindset and heal my mind and my life from all the toxicity it had absorbed. When I deleted the app, I made sure to tell everyone I knew that I was deleting it for good. It was a way to hold myself accountable and have everyone be a witness that I actually wasn't coming back. To me, it would have been embarrassing if I came back on it because it would have shown everyone that I don't have any willpower and self-control. I wanted a real change in my life. I didn't want to ever go back to that addiction. I knew of people who deleted it for 3 months to do a detox, but I thought that would be pointless because after going through all the hard work of self-control for 3 months, I would just get addicted again and fall in the same traps. Once I deleted Instagram, I had so much time to think about what I was doing, who I was friends with, and were these people actually good for me? Or were they just fake friends that wanted to keep the image of a strong friend group, but in reality everyone was talking about the other people? Being off Instagram made me realize the quality of my friendships wasn't good at all, and our group was very superficial. I realized I wanted to start cultivating friendships that valued honesty, kindness, and loyalty, whereas the values that Instagram was pushing forward were envy, jealousy, and comparison. When I deleted the app, all my friends laughed at me. They said I was too dramatic. They said I was just going through a phase and I would get it back. Even when I explained that I deleted it because I was too addicted, they didn't care and thought it was too extreme. I second-guessed myself and wanted to cave into the temptation to download the app again. But I knew that if I gave in, I would never heal and I would be worse than I had been because I would have failed myself. When I said no to myself to downloading the app again, I broke the dopamine cycle and taught my brain new healthy routines. I wanted to prove to myself that I could live without it and not care what people thought of me. I was convinced that this was the way to live a carefree life, and I was right. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Without realizing, I had removed the possibility of other people projecting their negative energy and envy on me whenever they opened my Instagram profile. There's this thing called evil eye, which is commonly talked about in the Islamic culture, and it means that if someone is jealous of something you have, they will attract evil and negativity to your life. Their jealousy can destroy the good you have. By showing myself online as little as possible, I unknowingly cut myself off from the negative energy and jealousy that people were projecting on me, and my life started to change. I also stopped being exposed to all these images of perfection, which allowed me to focus on the present moment and just be content, even with the boring things. No one's gonna post on Instagram about how they spent their weekend cleaning, vacuuming, cooking, doing laundry, and watching their favorite show, even though that is the reality for a lot of people. Unconsciously, you will compare those things with the reality someone else chooses to share, and at my young age, it affected my perception on life a lot. I slowly started going back to the things I liked before I had Instagram. I wanted to start reading again for fun and improve my concentration. I wanted to create art again. And I realized that maybe I'd been doing things to get validation from others, but I never felt happy because those things weren't really me. The key to happiness is to find gratitude in what you already have, and that mindset is impossible to have at the same time that you're constantly comparing yourself to everyone you know. There's this saying in Islam that if you wake up with no pain in your body, you and your family are safe, and you have the food you need for the day, then you have everything that you need to be happy in this life. When I think about this now, I instantly feel a rush of happiness. It was such a relief to not think about what I had to post next and to not get anxious about how many likes a post would get and then feel sad if it didn't meet my expectations. I don't know if I would know the importance of a gratitude mindset if I didn't know how depressing the opposite mindset is, the comparison mindset. I also wanted to do things that were good for my body and put less pressure on myself to look a certain way. I now work out because it makes me feel good or because it's fun, and I enjoy doing ball games like badminton. I do these things not because I have to reach a certain physique goal that's unattainable for me anyways, but because I actually enjoy them and I'm really grateful that I can move my body in this way. I started learning about nutrition and cooking. I now prioritize cooking with whole foods and I avoid ultra-processed foods as much as possible. I wanted to just enjoy the little things in life and not take anything for granted anymore. Most importantly, I wanted to find a religion that I believe in. I started praying to God to guide me in the right direction and asked Him to place people in my life that were good for me. 8 months later, I converted to Islam, and it has been the best decision of my life. I truly believe that the small decision to delete Instagram had a compound effect into every other aspect of my life. The message I want you to leave this video with is that if there's anything that you think is holding you back in life, and if there's anything that's consuming and polluting your mind, you need to get rid of it as soon as possible and better your life.